Here's your podcast segment. The real AI race isn't America versus China, and a new opinion piece in the New York Times makes a compelling case for why that framing misses the point entirely. Written by Dan Wang, a research fellow at Stanford's Hoover Institution, and Julian Gewertz, who served in senior China policy roles at the Biden administration's National Security Council and State Department, the essay opens with a scene that might sound familiar. A high-profile tech executive, riding high before a major public offering, says something that irritates regulators. The government strikes back harder than anyone expects. Overnight, the relationship between a booming tech sector and the state is shattered. If you assumed they were talking about something happening right now in America, you're only half right. They're describing what happened in China in 2020, when Alibaba co-founder Jack Ma publicly criticized Chinese regulators. Authorities canceled the IPO of Ant Group, another company Ma helped found, and triggered a regulatory crackdown that hammered Chinese tech across the board. Alibaba's stock has since lost around two-thirds of its value. Ant Group still hasn't gone public. Venture capital in China collapsed, and is only now starting to recover. The authors argue that America is skating dangerously close to its own version of that moment. Here's what happened. On June 9, Anthropic released a model called Fable 5, an adapted version of its more powerful Mythos model, which Anthropic's own CEO Dario Amodei described as a superweapon for finding software vulnerabilities. 3 days later, the U.S. government issued an export control directive blocking use of Fable 5 by foreigners and non-citizens, including some of Anthropic's own employees. Anthropic disabled access to the model entirely. As of last Friday, the government allowed Anthropic to restore some access to a version of Mythos, but negotiations over Fable 5 are still ongoing. Wang and Gewertz point out the irony here. For over a decade, the U.S. has used export controls as a cudgel against Chinese tech companies. Now, that same tool is being turned against an American company. And it doesn't stop there. The government has reportedly also approached OpenAI about limiting users for its next model. The second Trump administration, the authors write, has swung wildly on AI policy. It came in downplaying safety concerns and preaching a hands-off approach. Then in March, the Pentagon designated Anthropic a supply chain risk after the company protested its models being used in autonomous weapons and domestic mass surveillance. Reports about Mythos's capabilities appear to have shocked the administration into taking safety more seriously, leading to the Fable 5 confrontation. Meanwhile, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has reportedly been publicly celebrating Anthropic's troubles, which Wang and Gewertz call irresponsible. The authors make three-pointed recommendations. First, AI lab executives need to stop what they call doom trolling, making alarming claims about AI's destructive potential without a real plan to address those risks in partnership with the government. Second, the government needs to recognize that the stakes are too high to let trust break down. American allies are already questioning whether they can rely on US AI models, and foreign researchers working in American labs are reconsidering their futures here, neither of which helps America compete. Third, both Washington and the labs need to update their understanding of China. Chinese AI rhetoric is far less apocalyptic than Anthropic's. Chinese firms are more focused on applying AI to physical technologies, partly because they lack access to advanced American chips. Beijing, the authors note, has even blocked its own companies from buying NVIDIA chips to favor domestic alternatives and has restricted overseas travel by certain AI researchers and ordered the unwinding of a Meta acquisition of the AI agent Manus. The larger argument Wang and Gewertz are making is this: the real competition isn't nation versus nation. It's governments versus the private companies building the most powerful technology in the world, and both the US and China are struggling to figure out whether their frontier AI labs are national champions or national security threats. The difference, the authors conclude, is that the US still has a chance to get this right if Washington and Silicon Valley can treat each other with, in their words, greater sincerity and seriousness. For the United States to win the AI future, Dan Wang and Julian Gewertz write, it needs to do better at avoiding the very missteps of Beijing it has spent years warning the world about.